the song of the siren. Moonlight painted the ocean in bruised violet and bone-white streaks, as though the sea itself were breathing beneath a ragged sheet. Kai Elric stood on the crumbling marquee of what had once been the Rialto Theater, guitar balanced against his hip, fingers hovering over worn strings. The drowned city around him slept uneasily. Windows boarded, doors barred against the lullabies that drifted on every current of wind. Somewhere beyond the broken skyline, a choir of distant voices crooned a melody too perfect, too hungry. It crawled across the streets like fog. Kai did not hear it the way others did. Where his neighbors heard seduction, he saw color, a smear of dim, bruised gray that slid across the rooftops, weak and brittle. It could not enter him. Other people, those unlucky enough to be caught outside after dusk, felt the song sink claws into their hearts and draw them stumbling toward the waves. He had watched them wade, smiling, into black water. He had buried headphones in his ears out of habit but never out of need. Tonight he played to drown the memory, a slow minor progression that glowed indigo in his mind's eye. Notes echoed down empty avenues littered with driftwood and rusted cars. Each chord rose and fell like gentle waves until the air shifted. Not the siren chorus this time. Something closer. A single voice, crystalline, hovered on the edge of his awareness. Silver light flared in his vision, sharp enough to sting. He spun just as a figure vaulted onto the rooftop, droplets flying from a long, dark tail that shimmered into legs the instant she touched concrete. She landed in a crouch, strands of pale green hair plastered to her cheeks. Her eyes were tidal pool black, flecked with star-white motes. The cord in Kai's head shattered. "You're real," he breathed, too stunned to step back. Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "Sing, little mortal. Let me taste why you are silent inside." She moved with predator grace, closing the space between them. Kai raised the guitar like a shield. "Stay back." His voice trembled around the edges he spent years sanding smooth. She inhaled and a single note slipped from her throat. Clear, high, vibrating in the bones of the building. Color burst across Kai's vision. A brilliant spiral of searing gold. He staggered but felt no pull, only pressure. The rooftop around him buckled. Glass cracked in the theater's tower. Pigeons erupted into panicked flight. Yet inside his head, the gold shattered into sparks and went dark. The siren's eyes widened. "Impossible," she whispered. She sang again, weaving notes into chords of sound that whipped around him like invisible ribbons. They sliced air, but when they touched his skin, they fizzled to ash. He watched her confidence warp into confusion, then fascination. Kai's pulse hammered. "You're not the first voice I've resisted," he said, forcing calm. "None resist," she answered, "not true voice." She tilted her head, studying him as if he were a rare shell. Raindrops glittered on her lashes. "Come willingly, or I will take you." He swallowed, thinking of the deserted streets, the ocean's edge only blocks away. "If you haul me into the water, my guitar comes too," he said, aiming for nonchalance. "That toy?" She scoffed. "It's how I speak." Something flickered behind her gaze. She stretched out her hand. "Then speak." Kai lifted the guitar back into position, fingers finding chords through instinct. He chose a progression he'd never played aloud, 4 notes descending like slow tears. As he strummed, colors billowed, lavender, ghost blue, ember red. The air tasted of lightning, though the storm lay miles out at sea. His music brushed the siren's skin. She inhaled sharply, her pupils dilated until black swallowed the whites. She reached up and touched her throat. "Your notes hurt," she breathed, as if shocked. "And heal." He transitioned into a mournful melody, letting his voice join in a low hum. The siren stepped back, shoulders trembling. Then she bit her lip and forced herself still. She looked at him as though he were a door, long sealed. "Enough." Her voice cracked raw, barely rose above the wind. She flicked her wrist. and cords of salt water sprang from puddles around his boots, snapping tight around his wrists and ankles. He dropped the guitar. It clanged against the rooftop. She closed the distance, pressing icy fingers to his temple. "You will explain." In a dizzy tumble of motion, the skyline tilted. Water swallowed his sight. Then darkness claimed him. He surfaced to consciousness inside vast echoing shadow. Everything smelled of salt and ancient stone. He lay on a ledge overlooking flooded marble aisles, a cathedral half claimed by the sea. Moonlit water lapped pews that jutted like broken ribs. Candle stubs flickered, lighting mosaics of men kneeling before sea women with open, bleeding throats. Kai groaned, trying to sit. Salt chains bound his wrists to a cracked pillar. Waves slapped beneath the floor, sending chill through the stone. The Siren, Lyssa, he'd later learn, stood on a flooded stairway, waist-deep in water. Her tail glimmered beneath the surface, scales catching single moonbeams that sliced through a ruined dome. She studied him in silence. "So this is the part where you drown me," Kai said, voice raw. "I could," she answered, "but your silence protects you. Your music breaks me." Her brow creased. "I need that power." "Yeah, get in line," he muttered. "People have been trying to use my music since I busked for coins." Her eyes narrowed. Humor in captivity. Curious. She glided forward, water swirling around her hips as she ascended. Legs unfurled again, bare feet whispering across algae-slick stone. "Tell me your name." "Kai." "Kai." She tasted the vowel like seawater. "I am Lyssa." He met her gaze. "What do you want from me, Lyssa?" "To end the chorus," she said. "To break the leash holding my sisters and turn the tide of their slaughter." Kai blinked. "By kidnapping me?" "You resist the call," she said quietly. "Your melody bends ours. Somewhere in that mortal blood is an instrument keyed to the first betrayal. I will learn its song." He thought of color songs shimmering in childhood dreams, his mother crying each time the wind carried distant keening. "Maybe I'm just broken in a different way." "Hush." She stepped closer. Candlelight etched elegant angles of her face. "Your voice. Use it again." "I'm chained." She lifted a hand. The chains dissolved into vapor that tasted of salt and sorrow. He rubbed red wrists and reached for the guitar. It lay untouched near the pews. Lyssa watched. He strummed one tentative chord. Lavender flared in his sight, swirling around her ankles. She shuddered, eyelids fluttering. Kai paused. "Does it hurt?" "Yes," she whispered. "But so does truth." She closed her eyes. "Play." He drew breath, let fingers map a melody he'd half-written, half-heard in dreams, something fragile as sea glass. Notes drifted across the cathedral, weaving with the hush of waves against pillars. Color spiraled around him. Aquamarine, gold pink, dusk gray. The air warmed. Lyssa's chin tilted skyward. Wet tracks glistened on her cheeks. Tears, perhaps, though he wasn't sure sirens cried. The water around her glowed faintly. Suddenly the cathedral vibrated. Kai's cord fizzled. Lyssa snapped open her eyes. In the distant dark, a chorus of voices rose, hundreds of overlapping songs harmonizing into a single command. The water surged, sloshing over pews, climbing steps. Lyssa's breath hitched. "They found us." "The chorus?" Kai asked. She nodded once. Panic flickered. "They call me home or dead. Your music shielded us only so long." Kai's heart hammered. "Then let's go the other direction." Her gaze searched his. "You would flee with me, mortal?" He gripped the guitar. "You said you need my power. I need answers. Looks like we're stuck together." Another wave bucked, smashing a pew to splinters. Voices sharpened, beautiful and horrifying. Lyssa seized Kai's hand. Sea-cold skin stung. Hold tight. Water coiled around their legs, forming a current that lifted them off the ledge. Kai yelped as he was swept into swirling flood. Lyssa's tail burst free, propelling them into a chute of moonlit foam that spiraled through collapsed archways. Stone blurred overhead. He fought to keep one arm wrapped around his guitar, other hand locked in her grip. They shot out of the cathedral into moon-drenched canal streets where drowned lampposts jutted like skeletal trees. Siren silhouettes lined rooftop ridges, pale figures humming hypnotic chords that vibrated the very air. Lyssa veered down an alley half-submerged. Color pulses, jagged red and white, flashed before Kai's eyes as each chord hit him, but still, no command entered his heart. A siren dropped into the water ahead, eyes glowing emerald. She opened her mouth, unleashing a discordant screech of fury. Water erupted behind them, forming a maw of teeth made of song that lunged. Kai felt the pressure like 1,000 hands, but Lyssa sliced through with a whirl of tail and burst into an underwater tunnel. Sound became muffled thrums. In blue-green gloom, he made out glyphs carved on the walls, spirals around a broken heart sigil. His lungs burned. Lyssa pressed her lips to his, sharing breath that tasted of coral and storm. Air flooded him. Colors exploded, then mellowed to shimmering teal. They surfaced in an ancient marketplace flooded waist-deep. Statues of sea gods stared from crumbling plinths. Moonlight filtered through collapsed roofs and slanting beams. For a moment, all was still but for dripping echoes. Kai shivered, clinging to his guitar. Is anywhere safe? Beyond the chorus's chords, Lyssa said, voice hoarse. There is a place where their voice dies. We go there. He nodded, teeth chattering. Then unchain me for good, no more binding. She met his gaze, hesitation flickering. Then she nodded, brushing wet strands from her face. We travel as allies until your song frees us or ends us. Fair. He swallowed, chest tight. Where? She pointed beyond shattered rooftops to faint luminescent haze on the horizon. The temple of the first song. Kai adjusted the guitar strap, water dripping from the instrument. Then lead on, Siren. She turned, tail shimmering back into legs. Together, they waded through moonlit water, away from the city of echoes, while above them, the chorus keened in fury across a sky as dark as an unlit stage. Behind, the cathedral sank deeper, swallowed by silent waves. The road that remained above water wound through lank reeds and shattered billboards, its cracked asphalt glowing frost blue under the moon. Lyssa paced ahead with silent urgency, barefoot on ruined pavement that still remembered traffic and laughter. Kai trudged behind, guitar slung across his back, shoes squelching with brine at every step. The salt air tasted sharp as metal filings. He broke the hush first. You said your sisters are all bound by the chorus. How are you free? I broke, she answered without turning. Her voice drifted like foam, soft, bitter, self-mocking. My song bent wrong, truth crept in, snapped the leash. The chorus exiled me to die in silence, but silence taught me how to listen. Kai quickened until he walked beside her. Truth about what? That servitude is choice if one dares the pain of disobedience. She glanced at him. Truth about the lie that mortals are prey only. We once shared tides with your kind. Her gaze slipped to the dark horizon. Then betrayal rewrote the notes. Kai rubbed his arms. The warden. He loved a siren queen, promised harmony. Instead, he bound her and all our songs into chains that forced obedience. He died, but the bonds linger in blood and memory. She shrugged. Stories told by exiles. Kai exhaled, staring at his own reflection in a roadside puddle. He looked tired, feral, older than 26. You think that warden was my ancestor? You feel the tether differently, she said. Your line carries both shackle and key. Lightning crackled distantly, no thunder following. The chorus probing, testing. Kai's forearm hair twitched. How far to your temple? Days on foot, Lyssa said, faster by water if you trust me. I trust the part of you that saved me from drowning twice, he said. But if I go under again, I'll need breath and a way to keep the guitar dry. She stopped, thinking. There is an old ferry at the edge of the marsh, half sunk. Its hull still floats enough for two. Let's pray it's not haunted, he muttered. They pushed north through sagging fields where fishing nets tangled in rusted tractors. Dawn crept as a bruised violet smear. By morning they reached the ferry, tilted, graffiti-scarred, decks furry with moss. Kai laughed under his breath. A palace. They scavenged. Kai found fuel cans in a storage locker, the liquid amber and stale. Lyssa patched hull holes with seaweed resin, humming dissonant phrases that made the plants fuse like wax. When the tide lifted the boat free, he coaxed the ancient diesel engine to a cough and rattle. Smoke coughed skyward, gulls screamed and wheeled off. On deck he secured his guitar in a duffel lined with oilskins. Lyssa perched on the railing, eyes half closed, letting wind churn her hair. Play, she said. Let the chorus know whose sea this is. He shrugged the instrument free. Fingers picked a restless rhythm. Notes fluttered above the drone of the engine. In his synesthetic vision, orange sparks skittered across ripples. Every spark that touched Lyssa's skin melted into turquoise strands swirling into her hair. She inhaled, a quiet gasp of pleasure or pain. Colors? She asked. Orange and teal. He strummed softer, then spoke over the chords. When I was 10, I told my mother the Siren song looked like soot. She slapped me for lying. Then she locked windows with iron nails and taught me hymns in case the sea came calling. I think she knew something. Lyssa listened. Maybe she descended from those who survived the first drowning. They didn't survive, they drowned a world instead. He scraped a dissonant chord and let it ring. Sometimes I dream I'm waist deep in the surf while voices beg forgiveness. I wake choking seawater. The bow lurched on a wave. Lyssa stepped beside him, steadied his elbow. Dreams remember what blood forgets. Kai's throat tightened. What if freeing your kind means finishing what my ancestors started? What if this song kills everyone left? Her hand slid to his chest, resting over the amulet he wore beneath his shirt, a tiny tuning fork of polished bone he'd found as a child. Music can heal or shatter. The player chooses. Do you trust me to choose well? She looked up, pupils ringed by faint silver. I trust the sadness in your voice more than the certainty in any chorus. The horizon brewed slate clouds by afternoon. Rain hissed across the deck. Lyssa guided the wheel while Kai sheltered under the awning, mapping chords on damp notebooks. When his fingers cramped, she took the guitar. Awkward at first, plucking single strings, marveling at vibration against her collarbone. Press here, he instructed, placing her fingertip on a fret. Electric warmth leapt up his arm. She bent the note, a waver of sound that in his sight glowed pale green. What color was that, she asked. Seafoam, he whispered. She played again, building a tentative pattern. Kai harmonized beside her. Their voices mingled, hers soft humming, his rough baritone. The rain lightened. For a heartbeat he forgot the chorus, the drowned world. The blood tangled between them. Night fell as they moored against a flooded boardwalk lit by phosphorescent algae. Buildings leaned like toppled toys. Lyssa led him through watery streets to a sunken stone archway scrawled with runes. The Library of Meridian, last human outpost before the chorus rose. Inside, moonlight slanted through collapsed ceilings. Bookshelves slumbered under moss. Water pooled in the nave, reflecting tarnished chandeliers. Kai held the lantern while Lyssa searched. She surfaced, clutching a waterproof chest marked with tide sigils. He pried rusted hinges. Inside lay brittle journals wrapped in whaleskin. One bore a carved emblem, a forked tuning fork bound by vines. Kai's pulse thudded. He opened to spidery ink. Lyssa read aloud in hushed tones. I tie my beloved's voice to mine, lest she leave me. She flicked pages. Their songs drown men, but my melody commands them. The chorus shall kneel. Signed, Warden, Elias Marwin. Kai's surname was Elric, yet on the next page a line caught his breath. Our firstborn Kalen will inherit the tuning fork and the immunity. His vision darkened at edges. Kalen, he whispered. That's my family's firstborn name for generations. Lyssa closed the book gently. You are blood of the Warden. Kai backed away, lantern trembling. My line enslaved you. Lyssa's face closed like shutters in a gale. And you hold the same key. He wanted to deny, to toss the journal into the water, but truth clanged inside him. Then maybe the key can unlock the chains. Or turn them tighter, she said, gaze averted. A guttural moan echoed through the library, rattling dust from beams. Lantern flame flickered. Lyssa whispered, the chorus hunts. Water at their ankles rippled outward, forming concentric rings. From shadows, pale heads surfaced, sirens with glassy eyes, mouths opening in perfect O shapes. A chord like shattered crystal erupted. Color whiplashed across Kai's vision, jagged crimson shards. He pressed hands over ears, useless against magic sound. Yet the crimson broke to smoke when it touched him. Lyssa grimaced, nails digging into her palms. Play, she gasped. Soothe them. He fumbled the guitar from its case. Fingers slipped on wet wood but found an E minor. The note rang dark sapphire in his mind, counterpoint to the crimson. The front siren faltered mid-song. Kai slid to a suspended chord, then resolved it in a soft cadence. The wave of crimson fractured, falling like broken stained glass. Sirens blinked, confusion flickering, then retreated beneath the water in silence. Lyssa's shoulders sagged. Your lullaby calmed them. No one but the chorus controls them like that. Kai knelt, breathing harsh. I don't control, I negotiate. That is control of another color, she whispered. He met her gaze, hurt and awe mixed behind it. I won't use my music to bind you. You may have no choice, she replied. The temple demands duet. One voice of binding, one of surrender. He glanced at the journal. If surrender is yours, I refuse. She took the book, tucked it within her wrap. Decisions at sunrise. Now we hide. They found a stairwell leading to an attic above waterline. There, among mildewed pew cushions, they huddled. Thunder walked across the horizon. Rain battered gaps in the roof. Kai wrapped a blanket around Lyssa's shoulders. She stiffened at first, then sighed. Cold is strange, she murmured. The sea is never cold to us. Cold reminds humans they're alive, he said. She traced a finger along the tuning fork pendant at his chest. That relic sings faintly when you breathe. It calls to the temple. He closed his hand over hers. Then we'll answer together. Silence settled, broken only by rain. Kai stretched out, gaze on a cracked skylight. Lyssa laid beside him, wary yet weary. Minutes stretched like drifting kelp. His voice broke the hush. What happens if we fail? The chorus will kill you, she said, then they'll drown what remains of the coast until silence reigns. Then we won't fail, he said, trying to wield confidence like a shield. She turned to face him. Candle glow limned her features, softening sharp planes. Your certainty frightens me more than their rage. Because certainty invites disappointment, he guessed. Because it tempts hope, she whispered. He brushed knuckles down a strand of her hair, half surprised by his own tenderness. Hope is a stubborn song, he said. Something eased in her posture. She leaned closer, breath salt-sweet. Their foreheads touched. Neither spoke. Somewhere below, the drowned library groaned, yet the hush around them thickened. Kai felt the universe balance on the space between two heartbeats. But dawnlight sliced the broken skylight, cold and gray. Lyssa pulled back. We travel with tide. They gathered gear. At the flooded threshold, Kai hesitated. looking back at the attic's fragile sanctuary. Then he followed her into knee-deep water glowing faint with dawn. Outside, mist clung to the marsh. The ferry bobbed, waiting. They climbed aboard. Kai set the journal atop the wheel. "Lines for night reading," he muttered. Sound rang across the water, a long resonant chord. Lyssa stiffened. On the horizon, dozens of sirens rode a cresting wave like a phalanx, singing as one. Their melody coiled through the mist, heavy with command. Kai's immunity held, but his skin prickled cold. He strummed an answering chord, loud enough to shake the railing. His sound burst golden, uncertain, raw, rebellious. The approaching melody staggered, dividing into chaotic harmony. Sirens faltered, the wave losing shape. Lyssa's lips parted in wonder. "You challenge the chorus openly." They challenged first. He adjusted the tuning peg, struck another chord, this time weaving subtle, rising thirds inside. The siren formation broke, scattering like frightened birds. The wave collapsed into chopped whitecaps. Silence returned, broken only by Kai's ragged exhale. Lyssa breathed. "We have until nightfall before they gather again. The temple lies beyond that ridge of black water." He glanced north where a column of dark sea churned eternally upward, spiraling like a pillar to the clouds. "That looks hostile." "It is the maw, a maelstrom summoned to guard the temple." Kai cracked his neck. "Guess I better compose something really persuasive." She touched his wrist, pulse fluttering beneath her cool fingertips. "Sing with me," she said. "Let the sea know we come not as master and slave, but as new harmony." He settled the guitar strap. "Your key or mine?" "Both," she answered, voice tremulous but brave. She breathed in, releasing a low hum that tremored like deep-sea whale song. Kai found a root note and layered in. Their sounds twined, odd at first, then oddly perfect, building a fragile chord that shimmered luminous green against the pale morning sky. For the first time, Kai felt the ocean hush to listen, and in that quiet, he heard potential, a future unchained from ancient betrayal, balanced on the edge of a song yet to be sung. The ferry creaked forward toward the distant maelstrom, carrying two voices destined to rewrite the necrotic hymns of the drowned world. The ferry groaned as it nudged into the throat of the maelstrom. Water raced in tightening spirals, dragging the rust-scarred hull toward a yawning eye of foam. Kai's knuckles whitened on the wheel. Engine pistons hammered in protest while sheets of spray lashed the deck. His guitar lay secured beneath a tarpaulin against the rail, but he felt every vibration as though the strings were nerves inside his chest. Lyssa braced beside him, hair whipping, eyes fixed on the towering column of black sea that rose above them, sluicing moon-pale water into the sky. The air smelled electric, thick with unspent storm. "If the chorus waits at the center," Kai shouted over the roar, "they'll hear our blood beating before the bow breaks." "They already listen," she replied, voice an eerie calmness in the tumult. "We sing or we sink." He caught the tremor beneath her steadiness, fear of failure, fear of hope, and he realized he loved her for it, loved the fragile humanity etched into each note she refused to bend. The realization sparked like a struck match inside him, hot and shocking. He swung the wheel against the vortex's pull. "We need a moment of still water to start the hymn." "Take the breath the sea gives," she murmured, then leapt over the rail. Her legs fused to a sweeping tail as she plunged. The whirlpool hesitated, currents tangling on themselves. For 10 heartbeats the spiral slackened, smoothing into a slow rotation. Kai steered hard, guiding the ferry into the eyes wobbling calm. Lyssa surfaced astern. Water purled on her shoulders like molten glass. "Now!" she cried. Kai bound the wheel, rushed to the tarpaulin and dragged the guitar free. The deck lurched, but the maelstrom wall stayed momentarily at bay, raging around a fragile circle of peace only Lyssa's song could carve. He strummed a low chord. It sounded raw, unsure. He strummed again. fingers finding a minor seventh that vibrated with the ferric taste of dread. Colors bloomed inside his skull, deep indigo rimmed by red sparks that stung his vision. A spiral of shimmering figures rose along the vortex walls, sirens in pale ranks, their mouths wide in silent exhalation. Then sound hit, a chord, like glass bending. It rattled the fairy's bolts, rattled his teeth. He felt it trying to crawl under his skin and faltered, staggering. Lyssa clutched the rail, her own song rising in counterpoint. Her voice shook, fractured, then steadied into a mournful drone that split the chorus's harmony. The maelstrom wall bucked inward, jets of water striking like claws. The fairy shuddered, seams complaining. Kai fought for breath, string-soaked, notes slipping. He closed his eyes, searching memory. The warden's journal lay wedged under the console, but Kai had read enough. A half-rotted notation in the margin, 4 syllables scrawled beside a crude staff. He played them, low, higher, higher still, then let the 4th note hang unresolved. The chorus wavered, their chord frayed. A fissure ran through the vortex, a rippling scar of still water. Lyssa's gaze met his. Again, she mouthed. He repeated the progression, but added his voice, a raw, untrained baritone humming between the notes. He let himself feel every grief he'd stuffed behind chords, the neighbors who walked into the sea, his mother brittle with fear, all the lonely nights on rooftops playing for ghosts. The sorrow poured into the melody, thick as ink. In color he saw it, a violet tide that rushed up the vortex and smudged the siren's perfect order. Lyssa joined, weaving her own lament. It rang like starlight shattering, beautiful and aching. But at the edges of her voice, Kai heard pain, as if each note were slicing her throat. He shouted across the gale, "Too much on you." For truth, there is never too much. She swallowed blood-tinged salt water and sang louder. The maelstrom stilled enough to reveal a jagged stone spire rising from its center, the temple of the first song. Ancient murals clung to barnacle-studded walls, showing humans and sirens hand in hand beneath a sun. Shattered bridges spiraled down into deep water. A single arched doorway yawned at wave level. Kai swung a makeshift gangplank, splintered pallet boards nailed together, to span the gap. Lyssa vaulted first, tail sweeping her onto slick stone where legs reformed beneath her. She offered a wet hand. Kai followed, guitar across his back, journal tucked in his jacket. Inside, the hall vaulted upward into darkness. Broken mosaics carpeted the flooded floor, depictions of the chorus as radiant angels, halos of song swirling above kneeling mortals. But the faces of the humans had been clawed away centuries ago. Torches flickered to life of their own accord, igniting blue flame. Their glow revealed rows of silent sirens lining balconies carved from conch pink stone. They watched without blinking. The chorus's voice coalesced, but it came from everywhere at once. Impossible to pin. Words, not words, rippled through the air. Blood of the warden. Voice of chain. Kneel. Kai's knees buckled under a jolt of pressure. Colors detonated behind his eyelids. Red hooks, gold chains. He tasted copper. Lyssa steadied him, but she too trembled. A figure detached from the ranks above and drifted down. Not a siren. Something else. A man clothed in tattered velvet, beard tangled with kelp, eyes like cloudy quartz. The warden. Kai's breath froze. "You're dead." The apparition's lips twitched. "Not to the sea." Lyssa bared her teeth. "Traitor." The warden's voice rolled like undertow. "I sought harmony. I found power. The chorus is my unending regret. Blood may cleanse what blood has cursed." His pale gaze fixed on Kai. "Play what I could not finish." Kai's throat constricted. "You enslaved generations, and now you want absolution?" "I want silence," the warden said, "for their suffering chorus and mine." He faded into sea spray mist. Sirens above began a low drone. The stone trembled. Water seeped through cracks, rising inches in seconds. The temple intended to drown them for good. Lyssa gripped Kai's shoulders. If I join them, my voice will provide breath for you to finish the chord. She touched her throat. My song will end. Say yes. No. His tone came out raw. That sacrifice is the same chain in new metal. Then we both die and the chorus devours the shore anyway. He dragged the journal from his jacket. Pages flapped in whipping wind. He found the notation, a single unanswered chord progression, scrawled in ink and regret. Below it, a scrap of lyrics. Let sea and sky find middle place in mortal breath and siren grace. Kai met Lyssa's eyes shining obsidian in torchlight. Sing with me, but we decide the cadence, not them. If duet fails, she whispered, my voice rips us apart. Together or not at all. He laid the tuning fork pendant across the guitar's sound hole, struck it against the bridge. A pure tone rang out, clear, unwavering, colorless in his synesthetic sight. It was new. The absence of color, the air before dawn. He strummed the first chord in the warden's sequence. Lyssa inhaled and released a note that slid between his chords, third and fifth, like soft lightning. The siren's drone faltered. Water paused its rise. Kai played the second chord, shifting from minor to suspended fourth. Lyssa answered, her tone weaving sorrow into wonder. A silver stripe seared across his inner vision. The chorus shrieked, a discordant backlash that rattled columns, but their unity crumbled, notes falling out of step. Third chord, a major seventh that resolved and unsettled in one heartbeat. Kai's fingertips bled on the strings, but he kept strumming. Lyssa's voice climbed, raw silk shredding. Above, sirens clutched balcony rails as cracks zigzagged through their ranks. Some covered ears, shocked by a pain they'd never felt. Kai forced breath into aching lungs. The final chord hung missing, the one the warden never wrote. Terror fluttered. What if there was no ending? Lyssa stepped closer, palms on either side of his face. Feel it, not think it, she murmured, voice rasping. He closed his eyes. Behind eyelids swirled every color he'd ever seen in sound. Indigo sorrow, vermilion rage, honey gold hope. At the center waited the colorless tone of the fork, a blank canvas. He wrapped bleeding fingers around the neck, strummed a chord that hadn't existed before, part minor, part major, resolving upward, yet echoing downward. Lyssa joined on a breathy harmony that cracked halfway, then blossomed into pure, bell clarity. Their voices met, entwined, and fused. A shockwave of sound ripped outward. Stone shattered into salt dust. The water dropped, sucked back through fissures. Sirens toppled from balconies, song crushed in their throats. The drone died mid-note. Silence. Lyssa swayed, blood trickling from her ears. Kai's guitar strings snapped one by one, twanging final notes. He reached for her, but his knees gave. He collapsed into the shallow water left on the floor. Lyssa caught him, arms trembling. Kai. Her lips moved, but no sound emerged. Her voice, gone. She touched her throat, eyes wide with realized cost. He tried to speak, but water filled his mouth. A bolt of pain speared his chest. The temple floor lurched away. He was sinking again, deeper than before, lungs clawing. Through blurry water, he saw the siren's hive mind collapse into individual shapes, stunned, uncertain. But he could hear nothing, only pulse thundering. Hands closed on his shoulders. Lyssa pulled him toward a breach in the wall where pale dawn filtered through pulverized stone. She pushed him upward. Air slapped his face. He gasped, coughing, choking, tasted blood and sea. Lyssa surfaced beside him, lips blue. She tried to speak. No sound. Panic flashed in her eyes. Kai fumbled the tuning fork from beneath his shirt, pressed it to her lips. She closed her eyes. A faint hum shivered against the fork, too thin to call voice. Tears blended with seawater on her cheeks. The broken temple slid beneath the quieting waves. The maelstrom wall had vanished, leaving only ragged chop. Sirens bobbed at a distance, wide-eyed. For the first time they looked lost, a flock without heading. Kai paddled to a chunk of floating masonry. Lyssa clung to the edge, shivering. He guided her to the ferry, still miraculously afloat nearby, though smoke puffed from its stack. They crawled aboard. Kai collapsed against the rail, pulling Lyssa close beneath a surviving tarp. She shook violently as shock set in. He wrapped arms around her, pressing her to his chest. "Stay," he whispered through cracked lips. "Stay and we'll learn a new song." Silent tears slid down her face, but her arms tightened. Answer enough. They drifted for hours. The sky pinked with sunrise. Sirens surfaced in 2s and 3s, watching from a cautious distance. None sang. One approached the rail, eyes bright as fish scale. Kai lifted a hand in greeting. She did not reply, yet something like gratitude flickered. At noon, the remaining diesel coughed out. Currents carried the ferry until its bow kissed a rocky inlet, where grasses bent beneath salt wind. Small cottages clung to cliffs above, a place people might have abandoned or never reached. Kai helped Lyssa ashore. Her legs wobbled but held. Days blurred. He patched a cottage roof, scavenged canned peaches from a garden shed, taught himself to start a fire in a salt-damp hearth. Lyssa explored tidal pools, gathering shells, bringing seaweed for broth. She tried to hum, but only breathy wind escaped. Each time, sorrow darkened her gaze. Kai would strum gentle chords to soothe, colors muted pastels of comfort. One evening, under violet dusk, he tuned his last remaining guitar string. "I wrote you something," he said. "It's half whisper, so you can carry it." She nodded, seated on a driftwood log, moon making silver of her hair. He plucked the melody, a soft arch that rose, fell, then rose higher, lingering. No words followed. He left space. Lyssa closed her eyes. She inhaled, exhaled. Air rushed past chords that once commanded oceans. Now they rustled like leaves. But the breeze joined Kai's melody, turning hush into harmony. In his mind, colors blossomed: pearl, dusk lavender, pale gold. Not the riot he once saw, but gentle hues of healing. Sirens sometimes visited, perching on rocks beyond the breakers. They sang no more. Instead, they listened, as if waiting to learn their own voices again. Kai played. Lyssa smiled, silent encouragement. The world, wounded, began to retune. One misty morning, Kai found a conch on the porch. Inside lay a single pearl the size of a tear, swirling with shifting colors. A gift. He pressed it into Lyssa's hand. Light danced under her skin. When she breathed, a faint hum vibrated the pearl. Hope. Months passed. Fields rebloomed where corrugated rooftops once rusted. Human survivors ventured from inland to trade. They asked about the hush of the sea, the absence of deadly song. Kai would nod toward the shore where Lyssa walked barefoot, letting foamy waves lap her ankles. No explanation felt needed. One night he woke to soft vibration against his chest. The tuning fork pendant glowed, answering a new frequency. He rose, heart thudding, and followed the hum to the beach. Lyssa stood ankle-deep in luminous surf, holding the pearl. She extended it, eyes shining. A whispered note floated through the air. Not spoken, but resonant all the same. It brushed his ear like a feather, faint, yet unmistakable. "Thank you." His breath caught. Tears blurred stars overhead. He cupped her cheeks, pressed his forehead to hers. "Your voice," he breathed. "A beginning." She touched her lips, wonder alight. Soundless laughter shook her shoulders. He laughed with her, though tears ran down his face. From offshore, a single siren answered with a tentative melody, shy as dawn birdsong. Then another. Soon the coastline shimmered with soft, scattered notes, each different, awkward, beautiful. Not a weapon, not a trap, but the first confused conversation of a species rediscovering itself. Kai guided Lyssa back to the cottage. They sat on the porch steps listening. She leaned into him, silent contentment rising and falling with her breath. He strummed the guitar's lone string. A quiet chord drifted across the water. Sirens echoed it, imperfect, yet eager. The tuning fork hummed approval. The old songs that drowned the world were gone. In their place, new music would grow, stitched from broken chords and reclaimed voices, and at its heart, a mortal who saw sound in color and a siren who gave up silence for truth. Kai closed his eyes, letting the sea breeze carry whispers to unknown horizons. Somewhere far off, another city stirred, unburdened by haunting melody. He smiled, kissed the crown of Lyssa's head, and played on. The night carried their harmony out across calm water, and the world, still bruised, still healing, listened gratefully.